Hello, this is ChristTruthReveal, the Unleavened Bible and the Meaning of Life, with Aloha and the Lion. And I am the Lion.
Welcome, Lion. This is Aloha. Welcome to the broadcast.
So today's discussion will be about the numbers 7, 12, 10, like 12 disciples, along with Jesus being 13. And then in Revelation, many times it talks about 7 churches, 7 candles, 7 angels, different things like that. And so,
Seventh heaven.
and the 7th heaven is another one, but that's a little bit different. Kind of. 7th heaven comes in with all of that. And that's in Revelation 4:4, I believe, where it talks about being actually in the presence of God on the throne and the appearance of the Lamb and with the 4 beasts. Yeah. And I'd like to go ahead and go with the 4 beasts real quick, where they're announcing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty." Well, I changed that too, which is the symbol meaning of it. Whole I, whole I, whole I is the Lord God Almighty, because God is us. And we are a Trinity in each one of us. And we each have 12 candles in our body that are called chakras. And we have one above our head. And I've gone over this in past episodes, where you can take a crystal pendulum and you can put it over the areas of the chakras to prove it to yourself. Mm-hmm. So when it's talking about 7 candles and 7 churches and things like that, it's talking about the 7 chakras. Now it's a little bit difficult to put it, because there are actually 8 with the 7 in the body, and the 8th one is the one above the head, which the one above the head is where God exists, where we all are connected by that spot. And all the rest of this is just imagination, which God created us in imagination for pleasure. As in Revelation, it says all things are created by God and for God's pleasure. And so we are created in God's image and likeness. So one meaning of that is God's imagination. Otherwise, we couldn't be created. A people without vision shall perish. So in God's imagination, we are created in likeness or for pleasure. And then the 12 disciples are symbolic of the full 12. There's many more. The 12 disciples are actually representative of Jesus being the chakra above the head. He's representing God. And then the 12 disciples are the 12 chakras of the body. There are 7 main ones in the body, and then there are 12 total that are the main representative for the hologram that we are, so to speak. I call them hollow. Well, I call us holograms, and the chakras are the hollow emitters that create our being. And then we have the 13th one above our head, which is the God one. Like I say, that is where we're all connected. There is no time or space in that. And that's where all creation begins. So the 7 candles, when it talks or 7 churches, are, I actually believe it's the root chakra is where the ego presides. The heart chakra is where our subconscious resides, which also is where God says the word is written in our heart. So everything is in our heart. And when the Bible talks about ark, it's actually talking about your heart, because that's where the word is. That's where the commitment with God, the covenant of God, is created. And then I am that I am. That's God telling us that God is us. And then I have just recently had intuition given to me about the 10 horns that are described a few times in the Revelation. When we aren't connected to God consciously from our body direction, then God is connected into us in like a one-way mirror. God comes to us into our crown chakra through our third eye in the forehead and is creating what we are in our life. And when our soul evolves to a point where we gain a full lamp of oil, which is this body, then we open up the third eye and we connect to the crown chakra. And then that's basically the throne room that is discussed in Revelation 4.
Throne room, not seventh heaven.
What's that?
Throne room is not seventh heaven.
Well, it basically is, but seventh heaven is an experience. So the throne room is the crown chakra on the top of the head, which is where God sits when we open up, when we knock, when we ask, when we seek. When we open up our third eye consciously from our body up, when we have the energy and fill a full lamp, then God sits on the throne. And it's through Christ consciousness. And it's Christ consciousness that is God's Son. And it is energy.
Jesus.
And I've said it before, Jesus, when he got baptized at the river, he came out, and then that's when the Spirit of God came down on him, and it was described as looking like a dove. And God said, "This is my Son in whom I'm well pleased." God was talking about Christ consciousness, the dove that came down on Jesus. And Jesus was fully awakened. And then shortly after, he ascended into the seventh heaven, which Aloha is talking about. And the seventh heaven is a completely different vibration. It's called theta in mind science, and the color of theta is red. So when it says the blood of Christ, it's talking about theta consciousness. And in my experience, it was very important to know that. I wouldn't have grown without understanding the mind science of it and the consciousness. I would just be walking around, like other Christians, just relying on Jesus. And Jesus, I prayed to when I first became a born-again Christian. And I believe Jesus came to me and he answered me, and he showed me that I am his brother, that I am his joint heir, and we aren't stepchildren.
Yeah, exactly.
We're born God. God is born us. And then God expands through us by starting out a soul as an individual. And so as an example, if you picture like the earth and see it just completely lit up, just pure light. If you could get a microscope and look in close on it, you would see that there's a bunch of little teeny lights that are making that one. And each of us is those little lights that make up God, e pluribus unum, of many one, or one of many. So anyway, the chakras, when we wake up, when we get the lamp full of oil and we hear the calling of the bridegroom, as it is said, we connect to the chakra above our head, and our ego falls away. It still exists until we ascend into and it's not really ascend, it's expand into the seventh heaven like Jesus did. And Judas was representative of the ego, of the root chakra. And when Jesus ascended, Judas, or when Jesus died on the cross, actually, I guess it was, Jesus hung on a branch of an olive tree, which is symbolic of our lives. It's the tree of life.
Why did they call him a zealot? Judas the zealot? Wasn't that something they called him?
I don't know. I never really looked at that very much, but maybe that's got something to do with it. But he sold, Jesus out for money, and that was ego. And then I believe Peter represents possibly the heart. I don't really have that all in order, but possibly the heart, because the church is built on Peter, and the heart is where the word is written. So our bodies are the church, and our heart is built. Our church is built on our heart, on the word that's written in it. And the word written in our heart has our life plan, our eternal soul plan. It has the information of everything. When we open up the ark in our heart through our soul, our eternal soul, then we have access to everything, to the understanding of all that there is. But we have to expand into the blood of Christ, theta consciousness, in order to understand the beginning, so to speak. In these bodies, we don't get to understand that. So anyway, the reason why the 10 horns of the beast is the 10 chakras with the crown chakra and the third eye chakra shut off. The body doesn't have enough energy to open that up and to have a two-way experience of consciousness with God. So the beast is simply just a human being working on the low energy of its soul that is probably fairly new up to the point of the full lamp. And then, so basically then we just run around as 10, and then we have carnal nature, and our carnal nature comes from past evolution of our soul. Our soul evolves through different levels. The previous level to being human is a mammal. And before that, it's a bird. So mine is an African female lion, and it's a female because we have the balance of yin and yang. So I'll just take a second here, and I'm open to how does that sit? What do you think?
When you talked about seventh heaven being more of an experience rather than a location, it's also because of the vibration, right? You said it was theta?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. The vibration. And it's when our brains activate at, it is 4 to 7 cycles per second. So, and then we start to use more of our brain. And then the alpha, which is before that, which is where we are now. Anytime we go into meditation and prayer or anything like that, then we go into alpha, which is 8 to 13 cycles per second. And that is why the age of accountability is 14, because we go into 14 cycles per second and beyond. And that takes us out of Christ consciousness, so to speak. And that's why Jesus said, you must become as one of these children in order to enter the kingdom, because as children from the age of 0 to 3, we're in delta, which is black, which is where we're sponges, and we learn more in those first 3 years than we do in our entire lifetime. Mm. And then we go to 4 to 7 cycles per second in 4 to 7 years old. And I was told that the Catholics used to say, give us your children till they're 7 and they'll always be Catholic, because in those first 7 years is where everything is imprinted and from the outside world to be learned. Mm-hmm. And then we go from 8 to 13 cycles per second from age 8 to 13, we're in alpha. And then when we hit 14, we go into beta, which is blue. So beta is blue, alpha is green, and alpha is a color of healing. And then theta is red, and then delta is black. So we go through that in our lifetime as a human being. And then what our soul is doing is evolving to where it gets to the point where it can be an adult and out of Christ consciousness and return to be as one of these children, to where you can consciously go back to 13 to 8 cycles per second into alpha. And then we can go from 7 to 4 cycles per second into the blood of Christ, which is red, in theta. And then Jesus, he expanded into theta. And so our growth never ends. Mm-hmm. He is still expanding, and he may be at the bottom end of theta now, to where he's about to go into delta and be conscious, a conscious God. Because God at the beginning is not conscious. God is the substance, is what creation is. And of course, I can't explain that because I'm still in a body. But Jesus can explain that to me. But it's not working out very well when I ask. It's need to know. And basically, it's also to inspire us to grow, to expand. Mm-hmm. And then anybody that's in delta and doesn't have the oil to go back into theta or alpha or anything like that, they don't even get this. They won't even understand.
Right. And I think one of the practices that was really a fundamental piece of helping me break through with meditation was some of the exercises. I don't know if you've tried to describe those before on the air. I know you've coached many people on how to do it, but
I think I either did it when I was doing solo, or I did it when you and I were doing it, but I can do that again. Because it is really very
the chakras, right? And I mean, we just watched Mulan last night. One of the things we did was pop in a DVD of the newest Mulan, which is a live action one from Disney. And it's just really cool with, chi and how you use your life energy, just the stories that and describe being at that level of consciousness and mastery.
And there's no mistake that there's movies and books and stuff like that are coming out more than ever now, that are triggering things like that.
Yeah.
And like even the movie The Matrix and Groundhog Day, all those are symbolic of our soul's evolution. And just briefly, I want to go back to our carnal nature. Okay, so mine is a female lion. Loha did not go this far in the meditation. I didn't, and he's possibly working on it, but we didn't go that far. Basically, it was to teach Aloha the meditation part and theta and alpha, and he's been growing amazingly. and obviously was ready at the time. There's no mistake. When the student's ready, the teacher comes. But I'll quickly add.
What year was that in Spokane?
Let's see, I was starting to be 2011, maybe 2010.
Yeah, cool.
Something like that. It was right around the time I remember in Spokane they had the big protest thing on Wall Street because of Enron and all that kind of stuff. So somewhere around there. So it's been quite a while and a lot of wonderful growth. But anyway, so if I'm just in 10 horns, if I'm not connected with my third eye in the forehead to my crown, then I'm just walking around with 10 horns. And my nature is going to be mostly like a female lion. And so I'm going to act like that female lion. And then that's why it's, called the beast, I believe, in the Bible. And then it also says dragon, because a female lion with a human brain able to create, adjust, ponder, reason is very dangerous. It becomes like a dragon, which explains serial killers and things like that. Which, that's pretty brutal to say, I understand, but oh well, it's life. But that explains it, because those people that are like that, they don't have a lot of energy. They're an evolving soul, sometimes first time human from whatever mammal they are. And if they're a mammal that's like a cat that I had that I caught torturing a bird, breaking its wings and legs so it couldn't fly away so it could play with it. So put that into a human body, what's going to happen? And be disconnected from God. It's gonna act on that instinct. So obviously this podcast is not to reach those people. Those people need to live their eternal life and grow and expand and fill their lamp. And then back to Judas, where he was hung over the branch of the olive tree, which is the tree of life, is explained in the Old Testament, where it says that the olive be beaten for its oil to fill the lamp, or that the lamp may burn forever. And then to the parable in the New Testament of the bridegroom calling and the virgins hearing, and the virgins that had the full lamps trimmed their lamps and went out to the altar and were joined with Christ. And so that's explained, and that is also my explanation for reincarnation and proof of it to me. And then I just say, don't believe me. Ponder it, pray about it, ask about it. Have no fear for the truth. And when I started seeking the truth after being born again, my prayer passionately was to be like Jesus, to do the things that he did and greater. And that's when Jesus came and showed me the way and opened the doors to give me the training and to wake me up. Yeah. And then I got the training. So anyway, real quick, Judas was symbolic of the eagle dying at the resurrection, at the expansion or ascension into the seventh heaven, into theta consciousness fully. And then we can, in meditation, go into the alpha consciousness and the theta consciousness. And
maybe talk a little bit about the practice of understanding the colors when they come to you.
Okay.
You're in that meditative state.
Okay. And actually, I'm not visual. I do see colors, but it's not like how I train, trained you or trained people to meditate. So I used the actual colors and I learned what the colors were in mind science. And it was all confirmed to me through spirit. Because basically, when you learn that God is within you, as the Bible says, the kingdom is within. When you learn that God is within you and that you can't hide from God, as Adam and Eve are an example of, they ate the apple and then they thought they could hide. And God says, "Where are you, Adam and Eve?" You think he didn't know. And he flushed them back out and made them face their sin, so to speak. But sin is actually
their own shame.
Sin should be replaced with separation, because they were one with God in Eden, which is actually representative of a new soul just starting out to grow. And being split into Adam and Eve is very significant, because God said we have made him as one of us, using plural, because God is yin and yang. And then that will bring me later to the throne. And in Revelation, the 24 elders, which all represent chakras. And then the 4 beasts represent a person, one person. It has a man's face, it's a lion, which would be the person's carnal nature, the previous evolution of the soul. And so the soul reincarnates through all the different levels. And there's no mistake in how the planet and the world was created, with like single cell, little amoebas or whatever they're called. The soul is in that. And the soul starts its growth there. Not all of them will grow. A lot of them are there just to give the ones that are going to grow an experience. And same thing happens even in human. But that grows in different levels, and then it goes through reptiles or fish, and then it goes to the bird, and then it goes to the lion, or then it goes to the mammal, and then it goes to the human. So the eagle that it talks about, there's an eagle. The eagle represents the soul's experience before it was a lion. And then the lion represents the soul's experience as a mammal. And then the man's face represents that it's now a human. And then the calf, I believe, then this can be debated or whatever. The calf represents loyalty, submissiveness. So those 4 beasts represent a person that is connected to God, is submissive like a calf to its mother. Mm-hmm. But it's carrying its nature of an eagle and of a lion and of a man. You can know those. You can know what those are. I know what mine are. And I was led to that understanding by God. And you don't really have to believe in reincarnation, but it's really helpful to, because then you understand that you don't have just one existence, one life to get it right. It's either go to heaven or hell. That is completely a misinterpretation. Yeah. The damnation is eternal, not the experience of it for an individual. And the damnation is eternal because it's love. God is love. It's always existent. And when we separate, or when we sin, or which would be separate from God's love, and we go into like fear or hate, then God's love is like fire. It's like it burns us, and it's right here, right now in this life, in this body. So this is where hell exists. And Gehenna is used as a term of hell biblically. And Gehenna was a place in Israel where they threw their trash over a cliff into a fire. The fire always burned, but they would throw their trash and trash would burn up. And then more trash would go in and it'd burn up. So that's actually the description for the proper interpretation of that. That never says that an individual experiences hell for eternity. It really never says that at the end of this lifetime, we either go to heaven or hell for eternity. And it is in the Bible, and it is hidden in the Bible. And that's why Colossians 2:2 says, heart be knit together. And it's written in a way where you think it's talking to a village or a people, a bunch of people, but actually it really has a meaning to me, because when you read the Bible, read it for what it means to you personally as an eternal soul. Heart knit together in love, which my heart knit together in love. And then it opens up to the hidden. It's hidden. It's not just out in the open. It's written. The Bible is written in a way to protect the ignorant, because a young soul is not supposed to know the meaning of life. But the meaning of life simply is soul's evolution eternally, to start out as a very low energy individual soul, and then evolve through different aspects of experience of this illusion of life that actually is just a dream of God.
And to come into a realization of and be an experience of Christ consciousness.
Yes. As you grow, it's the lamp of the Virgin. The lamp fills up with energy. As the soul grows, every time it goes into a human existence, it's got more energy every time. More energy. Every experience, and especially the worst, toughest experience that can be imagined, is the one that grows the soul the most.
Right. That's when the olives are being
beaten for the oil.
Get the oil.
Yeah.
It's the only way to get your lamp full.
Exactly. And don't you feel it? Don't you feel that beating? You're just being beat. And then when you get to that point,
I feel the blessing. I feel the blessing as well. But
yes,
for sure.
yes. And I know everybody can say yes. I know everybody can say yes. And then just know, that nobody is a teacher unless they know that they're always an eternal student. So there are people, they want to be a guru and they want to be the teacher. They don't want to, they don't want anybody teaching them or telling them. And so then they aren't really a guru, because they cut themselves off, because they don't realize that they're actually a student first.
Yeah.
So would you like me to kind of explain the meditation again? And the colors?
I was thinking of meditations and colors, but it's really not even. I just think that idea of ascension and having the consciousness,
Right. Okay.
It's not necessary to be in meditation to do that, right?
No.
You're living your life as a
experience. Because I walk around eyes open, and I'm always in that meditation. I'm always in alpha and theta. I will come out every now and then, because I'm human, and I'll get frustrated, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, that's just because you're getting reps seeing things from an eternal perspective. And
yes,
when you haven't had that experience of seeing things through that lens, you're going to be frustrated more often than not.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. When you realize you're an eternal soul, and your eternal soul is you, and it's living your life, and it's imagining this life. And before this life, it sets up its life with other souls like Aloha and I, we were set up before we came to this existence. And I know that for a fact because we have been friends for what, 47 years now. And I knew him before we became friends. We weren't in the same class at the same school. We were both new to the school. I came the year before, I believe, and he came that year. And I was out on the playground and I see something like the only way I can explain it is like caught my attention like a light lit up. And I'm looking, what is that? What is that? And it's covered behind all the people. And I know I've gone over this in earlier episodes, but I love this because it's very important. And so I see like this thing, something's bouncing around out there. And then all of a sudden, here comes this person out of the crowd. And I look at him and I feel like, wow, I know that person. He's familiar to me. And then the next year, we're in the same class. And shortly after we started in that class, we became friends and have been friends ever since. And we've gone off on our own journeys. I moved away.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with you. You were all over the U.S. I never left California.
Yep. He stayed there. I went and traveled and had some pretty eye-opening experiences in life, and his were different, but also the same. And then it brought us to this point to where actually, as I've explained before, 36 years ago or something like that, or actually 33 years ago, I was given a vision of this right now, of he and I doing this. I didn't understand how it would work, and I didn't believe it would be him. Because at the time I was in meditation, I was learning, the chakras, the chakras actually came later, but I was learning the mind science. I was learning the different levels of meditation. I was going into those meditations, and I was fasting for many days at a time, or one time, 18 days I fasted, and I meditated for 9 hours a day.
Wow.
for 10 days. And I had a lot of information that was uploaded into me, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then, although it took me all the rest of the years to understand it, to put it all together, I'd be driving down the road because I did a lot of traveling, and I'd be pondering, and all of a sudden get an understanding of like Jesus after the baptism, that being Christ consciousness.
It takes you back to that student mindset.
Yeah. And you always have to know that you don't know it all. I mean, you have to know that you know it, that you have the ability to know it, but that you're still learning it. You're still.
And that you have to seek godly confirmation too.
Yes, you have. Well, you have to go through your soul. You have to go to God. And it even says in the Bible, go ye not to any man to be taught. And I know it's not exact, but that came to me when I was listening to the Bible on tapes once. Go ye not to any man to be taught, but go only to God, lest ye be deceived. So when you go to church looking to a pastor to teach you, you're going against what God has taught you. Mm-hmm. If you read the Bible, you go only to God, and you're going to get frustrated. It's going to take some time. Although at this time, it's not taking very long. There's an amazing energy hitting this planet, because this planet is having an ascension experience, and people that get the understanding and start asking, because you ask, you receive, seek and find, knock, the door is actually already open. It can happen in a week. It can happen overnight now. That took me 35 years, 36 years to figure out.
Right. And you think that's because there's this planetary vibration that's changing.
Yes.
There's this shift or an alignment.
Yep.
And I know you talked last time about, so that planetary alignment.
It's God's creation and imagination of this galaxy, maybe the universe, where we're positioned on our central sun, because our solar system, like our Earth, goes around the sun. Our solar system goes around the central sun of the galaxy. That's why it looks like a pinwheel. That's why they show it as a pinwheel in other galaxies that they can see through telescopes, because it's everything in it is going around the central sun like our Earth and the other planets around our sun. So we are in a place around in the galaxy where either the central sun has a special energy coming from it, or it's a bunch of alignments. I don't know for sure, but I was told about this happening in 2000, that it had started in the 90s, in the late 90s, and was going to accelerate. And it's an opportunity for souls to grow faster than they would normally. Souls might skip a couple of lifetimes at this time. And we have what?
You witnessed that with some family members, right?
Oh yeah. Yes. And getting caught off. Let's see. I guess I want to go back real quick. I get stopped, and that's my soul kicking in. And actually, this is soul called. Its name is Marielle, and Marielle is the one that does the teaching, and the lion just stays back and listens and learns. So anyways, for some reason, I'm supposed to stop on that and go on to something else. And I'm looking at the screen and I see the 7 and the 12 and the 10, which is what this is supposed to be about. And I'm going to go ahead and go into Revelation 4. And I don't bring the Bible out and read the scripture. Sometimes I will do that, and I have done that in the past. And I've done symbolic meanings. But it talks about, so John in Revelation says that he's taken into where he sees the 4 beasts, and they each have wings, and they have eyes within and without, which means it's a prophet, somebody that is like Jesus got to where he could see his future. So that represents a prophet. And as I explained, the 4 beasts, and the 4 beasts are saying, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, because it is holy. It atoned at one in righteousness or right use, and became holy or whole eye. And then when it goes in before the throne, and it talks about the 24 elders, well, when Adam and Eve were split apart, that created 24 chakras, 24 separate chakras, but it's from the same one. It's a yin and yang. We've created him as one of us. And so it's God, the one of us. God is yin and yang. So I don't say God, him. I don't like that, because God is not gender. God is yin and yang, is both. And so was Adam at first, and Adam was split into male and female. Genders were created, and then there were 24 chakras. So in the throne room, described in the Revelation, there's 24 elders. Well, that's those 24 chakras. When we ascend, we rejoin. So Adam and Eve became one again. And then there are 24 chakras that are elders. That's the chakras in those bodies. The 2 bodies have the energy, the full lamp of oil. They went to the altar, they married the bridegroom, so to speak, and they became one again. And then that's what it talks about. When you get married, you become one. You leave your parents and you become one.
Mhm.
That's actually what it means. So it's just a description of, okay, God is still sitting on the throne and God is yin and yang. And then there's the 24 elders around it. So you still have the chakra above the head, but then you have the other 24 that have come together as one. So it's a full renewed being. And it goes with Plato, where Plato said we're split aparts. So we're split aparts. Plato said we're split aparts, and what we're doing is we're seeking out to get back together with our split apart, like electricity. DC voltage is positive and negative, yin and yang, and they're going down the line until they meet and the light lights up. That's what that describes in Revelation 4.
Wow.
Two that came together as one from their beginning, that was split apart as Adam and Eve, that went into the experience of the knowledge of good and evil, which is this life experience, this physical experience. Actual life is the soul. So when we talk about life and lifetimes, it's not really this body. It's kind of like in the movie La Bamba, an older guy, he says, to be born is to go to sleep. To die is to wake up. Because when we leave our bodies in death, we wake up again into the energy of God, into our eternal soul. And when we do that, though, we don't take our brain and our heart. So we're at the level of energy that we are, but we don't have a brain to think, and we don't have the images of these lifetimes. And we also don't have the, we don't feel for people that are our family in this life. We don't have that feeling because we don't have the heart or the memory. Now, if a soul leaves its body and it's still hung up on this life and its family or whatever, then that's what we would call a ghost. They still hang around here in energy, and they're keeping themselves together with the energy that they have, and they have an experience to be able to imagine still, and they imagine their family or whatever, but they're stuck until they finally wake up to realize, oh, I'm not in that anymore. And then they move on, and then they go on to more.
That could be similar to like being in a coma, having that altered state.
Yeah, and actually, most human beings are in a coma. Yeah. And and the Bible says man has but one life. It's soul life. We aren't really alive as human beings or as animals or whatever. Our soul is what lives, and as man, or as you don't need to say man or woman, because mankind covers both. There's a man with a womb, which is a woman, and a man without a womb, which is a man. But we're split into genders because for procreation, for the experience of being born again into a physical life as an infant that has to go through those different levels of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And
it's also important to say that, right, it's intentional. That the act of sex is intentional.
Yes.
That means every person is, that uniqueness is really not to be, right?
No, it's intentional.
Treat life with so much more respect when you come to that.
It's sacred. It's sacred. And and religion especially has made it be an evil thing, so to speak. Priests, denying their natural nature, because they believe the Bible says that, but that's not what the Bible really says. Underneath it is the eternal soul meaning, and then it's only missionary position. And why do they call it missionary position? Because of religion. Missionaries, right? So No, we're born with that nature of procreation, of sex, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a sacred thing. And then depending on what your carnal nature is what drives that. And that's why some people are what are called nymphomaniacs, and then there's people that have really not much interest. And that's kind of because of what they were as an animal.
Anorexics. Yeah, anorexics.
Yeah, and so everybody's experience in that is intentional, as you're saying. Everything is intentional. Every bit of this life is planned and intentional because we all agree. We have to agree. Aloha and I agreed to do this life together as souls. And we agreed to do it with our wives and with our children. Our children picked us. We picked our parents. Our souls did. The perfect experience. And a way it was explained to me in meditation was it's like a football field. There's a whole bunch of football fields. I've got my football field, and I start out at one goal, and I'm going to go to the other goal in this life, whatever that the experience is. Okay, the only free will that I have is, do I go from sideline to sideline, or do I go straight down the middle? I've gone sideline to sideline, and I've tried to go out of bounds, and I got knocked back in with a 2x4. And that's exactly how it works. And then I've got people that are overlapping on my field that are the other players, and we all are a team, and we agree to be on that field. But then every other player has their own field, and they overlap. And then there's fields that are on the other side of the world that we never really react with or interact with. But it's all planned. It's all perfect. It is not chaos. It is not chance. It's all perfect. And it even says that it's all perfect. And God says, only I can tell the future because I created it and I do whatever I want. All things created for God and for God's pleasure. Right there tells you that God is in control.
He made it because he wanted it to be good.
Yeah, and then again, there is no good. There is no bad or good or right or wrong. Only in our experience can we have that judgment. To God, it's just all life. It's just experience. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's kind of like getting, people hate the roller coaster. I love the roller coaster. It's like getting on the roller coaster and being scared and excited and get off and then want to get back in line. That's what our soul does. It loves the roller coaster. Comes in, gets on the roller coaster.
A lot of people are definitely feeling that. Trying to find these things that bring them regulation. And, when you talked about just the intentionality of life, I think it's hard sometimes when people don't believe that anymore, and they are either trying to check out with substances or check out with, a weapon of some sort. So,
yeah.
You said at one point too that depression can be almost like an addiction, right?
Oh, depression is addictive. Yes. Yes. Chronic depression is an addiction.
And so the art of meditation is really the best remedy for that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Unless you're supposed to continue to experience it. You can't just, if God wants this person to be depressed for a lifetime, the person's going to be depressed no matter what.
Right.
But yeah, the cause and effect of it is, like mainly guilt and regret. Yeah. People that are prone to feel guilty for something they've done or regret something they didn't do or did and hold on to that, they'll create a chemical imbalance in their brain, and that causes depression. And then the depression is kind of like taking a drug, and it becomes addictive. And so then it becomes lifetime, or it can, unless that person figures out, oh, wait, everything I've done has been created by God. So there are no mistakes. So I didn't do anything wrong. So off of your shoulders comes the regret and guilt, and you can heal
Right.
from depression.
Drop the rock.
And I've felt depression. I haven't for a long, long time now because I figured it out. And, I felt like, oh, yeah, I just want to stay here and waller. I was like, what the heck would I want to do that for at the same time? When I started to, after I was awake,
becoming mindful about it. Right?
Yeah. And trying to figure it out. And so I would put a sad movie in and get myself to really start crying to feel that, that sadness. Mm-hmm. And then I would just talk out loud, like I'm talking to God out loud, because I realized that God is within me and God is my best friend. And I would talk out loud about everything and try to figure out why I'm feeling this way and realize that really there's no reason for it and then feel better. And I had to do that quite a bit. And then finally I got to where, there is no right or wrong, bad or good. Everything is perfect. And then no more depression. It's gone. Acceptance. And that's just basically, the lamp full of oil being, enough to where that can't last for very long. And then comes to the perfection of the plan of it. And then just kind of real quick back to, we have almost 8 billion souls, 8 billion people on this planet, not even including animals, all the different types. There's a reason for that, because of this time, the energy on this planet, the souls want to come here. There's a bunch of brand new souls, first timers. There's a bunch of middle range, top range. They all wanted to be here for this time right now and for what's coming. And I'm not going to predict anything. I do not predict. I'm not a prophet like that. I just know the outcome is coming and that it's going to be as described in the Bible, that we're going to have Armageddon, all that, which is actually, I've had my personal Armageddon. There's probably an Armageddon going on out in the world right now, but it has to do with evil and people that are subject to that because they're being flushed out with the light that's hitting this planet, and it's working out to be where it's actually a human thing that's happening. So evil is being eradicated because the planet is going to go to that what called the 1,000-year reign of Christ, and says Satan is going to be put into the pit. Well, Satan is mostly an energy. It's when the Bible talks about Satan, energy, it's right? Yeah, but it's also talking about ego.
Yeah, low self ego.
Yeah, you get if you put the carnal nature together with ego, and that's how you get your existence. That's how you get the experience. And it just, God runs wild with it. And then, we as human beings judge it as right or wrong, bad or good. And that's, relative. It's reversible. People that are in evil think that it's good. And then, so, that's why there is no bad or good, right or wrong. Unless there is to you, to a person. So anyway, the meaning of life, that's basically it. It's about energizing these chakras that are in our body, the 12 disciples, connecting it to the 13th one above our head, which Jesus represented, and and the 12 disciples represented that coming together. And then the time in the wilderness was of him bringing all that together. And of course, the 12 physical disciples weren't with him, but the whole the whole life and experience of that is a representation of how it works. And Jesus going in the wilderness and being tempted by the devil. Well, that's actually his ego. He was tempted by his ego. He had to overcome his ego because his ego said, hey, we can make bread out of a rock or just make it appear, or feed 5,000 people with, fish and stuff, which he did later.
It was interesting. I was watching a silent film, The King of Kings, by Cecil B. DeMille. So, right? It's one of the original films about Christ.
Yes.
But they were talking about that, just like how Jesus had followers, but they were following because they thought, right, there was going to be money involved. They could get in and they could be on the board of directors or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's not what he was. Yeah, he wasn't building that kind of kingdom. People were very stuck in that ego.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Started out that way. And then he had the transfiguration, which is where it says that he was with Moses and Elijah, which represents law, Moses, and prophecy, Elijah, the intuition and law, which is Lord. When the Bible says Lord, it means law. And then there's the natural law of what goes around comes around. And then there's the universal law of evolution of the soul. And when God said, it's better to be hot or cold than lukewarm. If you're lukewarm, I spew you out of your mouth. And what that's saying is that there is no lukewarm. We cannot stagnate. We're either moving up or down, and it's a spiral. We circle around. And that spiral can be seen through many lifetimes. And actually in meditation, I used to see a spiral. And so I decided, well, what the heck? I'm going to turn around and go see what's in there. So I turned around in it and I just said, okay, I want to go backward into the spiral. And I did. And I said, okay, stop. What's here? And then I would have a memory that I never would have remembered before.
Wow.
Cool. So I got, back into it and I did it again and went further back and I asked, stop, okay, where am I? And then I had another memory. And so then I turned back around and went back to the present. And then I looked at that spiral in the present and thought, there's my future. Wow. And God is in control of it. What a relief.
And that's how you were able to actualize this very podcast, right?
Yes.
Because you knew it was coming. You were just being faithful to when it would happen.
Yes. And I would, but of course, since that time, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? The answer would always be soon, soon. Which now having done it, even though it's been 30 some years, it's still soon. It's not too bad, And then, actually the path of enlightenment, like the Buddha said, is the line between the two extremes. If the string is too tight, it breaks. If the string is too loose, it won't play. And so we're coming to a point of that between the extremes. We go into the darkness and then there's the pure light of God. And then we come back to the middle of the actual experience of God's love and light after having experienced both the extremes. And then that's where we get to Jesus's point of ascension, the lamp full of oil, and then go into that and then fulfill that throne room of rejoining our split apart and being one.
Right. And the yin and yang piece.
And then we become creators. We have the ability to become creators when we get to that point. And that's actually how God expands and creates. It's because it's God's mind always. And God's mind is us. And then God creates more things with us. Like we can create a universe. We can create people, a planet, whatever we want. And then, of course, it has to be by God's imagination. So, moral of the story is life is eternal. Man has but one life, and that's the soul's life. But man does not just have this one life where you're either going to go to heaven or hell if you receive, whether you're not, you receive Jesus. It's in the Bible. If you read the Bible from the soul's perspective, you'll see that what it's really saying is you're evolving through hell. And it's, who was it? Gary Busey says, religion is for people that are afraid of hell. Spirituality is for people that have been there. And that totally relates. That's absolutely true. We go through hell and then we come out and we realize and we fill our lamp.
Yeah, but not everybody can. I mean, like when you were talking about the spirals, not everybody can really open their mind up to the point where they think they could almost time travel like you're describing. Because that's basically what it is. It's like an ascended master who can just, show up in places, right?
Yeah. And they're actually not showing up. They just are everywhere all at once. So to an ascended master, it's like God. There is no time or space, right?
Yeah.
So they're in everything all at once, but it's a spiritual thing. You can't time travel in a physical body. I believe you cannot. Yeah. You have to somehow get that body to the vibration of theta or less or higher.
We're talking about a memory. So
by a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
Yes. Time travel,
that's
spiritually.
Time travel there, right? You feel like you were there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I was there experiencing that experience again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kind of like I went into that brain, although I couldn't be in that brain anymore because I'm not that person anymore. That person is a part of me. But yes, I did feel the experience of how I felt at that time, what my existence and my mentality was. It's very cool.
Yeah.
And people can do that. And there's people that do what's called astral travel, go into the spirit realm and travel around. I don't, and I think people can go to the past. Future, I think, is really not. It's like the song Doris Day sang, the future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. And it isn't. We're supposed to go along now and just get to a point of full faith and trust. And that's where we come to the middle.
So full faith and trust, meaning that you live as an expression of God for God.
At this moment now, without wondering.
It's always just present. It's always
yes. Without knowing, okay, I was shown we were going to do this as an example. And so I was looking for it, but I was always looking for it in the now, okay, is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen now? When is it going to happen? If I ask when it's going to happen, I always got the answer soon because God only tells you exactly what you need to know or what you will accept.
You send the code and we do it. So cool.
Yep. So there's so much to it, but it is really
was there more in the title that you didn't address?
No, basically I just did the title as 7, 12, 10 symbolic meaning.
Okay.
So no, and then, as when it gets published or whatever, I'll put it into what we actually discussed.
Yeah. So just offline, and maybe you can let me know what you had to do. if it ended up being just changing browsers or whatever, but I'm curious.
No, it's working.
Yeah.
I didn't do a thing. I did reload the browser,
Okay.
but it just worked. And it's like you said before, it just wasn't time until now.
Yeah.
And then I was really inspired today. I was feeling great.
Yeah.
I'm feeling awesome now. I'm inspired. In our last discussion, when we couldn't get into this, was very inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been kind of sitting on that ever since the discussion and things have been coming to me to discuss. So I felt it today. And then it worked, right? And I know looking back that we were trying to force it. And it wasn't time. Because it's not about coming on here and just jibber jabbering. It's coming on here with substance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
to
talk
for the people who are willing to be taught.
Yeah, for anybody
who are traveling the journey of soul.
Yep.
They've got
anybody
something they can enjoy here.
Anybody interested and anybody that finds it, and there is no marketing. There's just
truth
being put out there because it's in us and we need to get it out.
Free truth, and the truth sets you free. And what a better way to live than,
Yes. And we are God's, we are gifts of God, and that gift is to be freely spread to everyone, anybody that is ready and want.
Yeah. And like you said, we are able to not be blocked by stuff and become creators again and really give back. Yeah.
Yep. And
the act of creation is right useness.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the only thing that we as an individual have the power of, is to be the creation as we are. And like I've said before, we're going to get from one end of the football field to the other. It's a matter of, do I go to that end kicking and screaming, or do I go along in faith and gracefulness? And I choose to go along in faith and gracefulness because I don't like getting hit by the 2x4 anymore.
Yeah.
Because we do as human beings. We think, our ego. No, I create this. I'm in control. Kind of like Neo in the movie The Matrix. I like to think that I'm in control of it. Well, and then he finds out.
It's just such an uncertain time with COVID, right? People don't feel like they have any control.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of like a sort of a gift, for people to understand that, that it is something out of their control, and then put that into their life experience, that's how life is. Yeah, we really aren't.
I think it's too uncomfortable a lesson for many people.
It is. It's a really tough time, and especially
the
since
universe is an actual, that they're part of an energy field that's the universe, is really hard for people to grasp. They get so disconnected in the land of, Instagram and 80 hours a week of social media time.
Yep, and then also,
they can't sustain their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a total mess going on, but it's very important, and it has to be, and that's why it talks about in the end times the Armageddon. I don't believe it says that in the Bible, but the time at the end is the toughest, because when the light is shining on everything, and there's people that aren't ready, you can't even hear the call of the bridegroom. Like there were others that did hear it, but they didn't have the lamp full. But there's a lot that don't hear it, and they can't hear it. And so that's where the chaos comes in. The light is shining, and it's on everything and everyone. And so the ones that can't handle the light are in chaos, experiencing chaos. And then the ones that can are starting to wake up and realize that there's more to life, and starting more. I see people all the time now that are finding faith. They're finding faith in God, that they can't control this, and COVID is a blessing in that way.
Mm.
And so are all the other things going on. You can't control it, and chaos arises, but behind chaos is harmony, and the harmony is coming after it puts Satan into the pit. And then our egos don't get triggered by that anymore. And those of us with the lamps full of oil, we get to, I say we, but I don't even know if I'm one of them, but then the ones that do have the lamp full of oil and they're able to marry the bridegroom and fully expand into that throne room with the 24 elders of their chakras completely charged, they get to spend that time rejuvenating this earth. It's a cycle of the planet, and it's going through the cycle. It's time to kick off the fleas and rejuvenate.
Yeah.
And the planet is alive, so it's going to go through its own wonderful experience.
Sure.
It may not have a brain and think like we do, but it is alive. Yeah. It is an experience of God. God is experiencing life through the planet as it does through every living thing, everything that we call alive, whether it has consciousness or not. It's all an experience of God, from the central sun to every star to every planet. It's even rocks. They still have the same energy in it of atoms and all of that a living thing does.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all experience. A rock is pretty boring, from a soul perspective, but it's important. And I don't know that a rock actually has a soul, but it is energized, and that energy is of God. So it's all connected, and it all creates experience. Yeah. And then also, too, talking about future and past, when we get to that point where we ascend and we're in it all at once, we don't have an ego to where we want to go experience being Joan of Arc, like a lot of people think of. I've heard people say, we don't have that kind of ego or that experience of, an attachment to the past of the planet and wanting to be a great warrior or president or whatever,
Yeah. No.
We don't care about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And we see it as not as no bad or good, right or wrong, just wonderful, beautiful experience. And all of it, even down to what we as human beings call the most evil, disgusting things that we can. That's not to be judging it. That's to call a spade, exactly. A heart, and all that. But even that's
invested in it. Yeah.
But there's always this thing of pastors or people, Christians and stuff, that say God doesn't create those bad things. Those are just like random. No, God creates everything. Revelation, it's absolutely true. Glory be to God. God created all things, and all things are created for God's pleasure, without exception. And that's why God says, Jesus taught us, don't judge. It's why we're not to judge. It's why we're supposed to walk the middle way and go along in grace through faith.
Yeah. It just makes relationships so much easier too when you have that kind of high self interactions, when you're only vibrating in a place where you just want, just share what's good for,
absolutely,
relationship, share what's best for everyone.
Yep. And also remember that you're a human being and you're going to do human things. And when you do those things, you don't judge those things, whatever it is. There is no better or worse.
If you could have done better, you would have done better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's us that create the illusion of something being better than another. And I do that, I see people doing something and I say, I don't want to do that, because it's not better for me. So I feel like we're back, brother.
I know. Let's crank up the frequency if you want. My caseload's pretty low.
And
I think we've been promising a discussion about the trenches for a little while.
yeah,
And
that
so
was
without disclosing, more than I need to, right? But helping people, I think I always have a heart to leave people some practical tools. And so,
yes. Yeah.
maybe there's
Yeah.
something there we can work with.
And that was the other thing that I've been pondering that we discussed. But it came to me more to go through the chakras and the meaning of the 7 and 12 and how that actually has meaning and what it means, and also to go through the carnal nature and the evolution and stuff again. So okay, so for sure next time. Yep, everything's really good, and I'm gonna go ahead and
delete that part.
I'm just going to go ahead and publish it because it all, there's some editing that needs to be done, but it's not all that necessary, When it's published, people can listen to it and they can go to whatever part they want. It's raw, but it's perfect.
Truth.
Good, and there's a couple others that haven't been published that I'm going to go ahead and publish, even with our banter on it of having issues.
Do what you do, man. That was
okay.
fun. I was really looking forward to that. That was cool. I could tell your energy when you said you had the music ready. I'm like, oh dang, he ain't messing around. I gotta get going. I've been moving slow because I've been working on my porch still, moving heavy bricks and stuff,
Oh yeah.
So my body's really. It's getting cold in NorCal. I know it's cold up there too.
Oh yes, yeah. It's in the actually not too bad yet. Not freezing.
Yeah. No, it's probably beautiful where you are.
Yeah, we've had some storms.
Oh, okay.
Really pretty tough ones, but only one power outage. So I think they've done some repairs on the lines and stuff. So anyway,
right. Thanks,
I'm
man.
gonna end this. And then I love you, and you let me know when you're anytime. I'm ready now.
Let me investigate my trenchy calendar.
Right on. And then we'll make a discussion of that be next.
All right, sounds cool.
I'll put that on the title. Okay. Have a good evening.
All right, man. Peace. Aloha.
Aloha.